Hi, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. My name is Fiona and I upload videos about pregnancy, birth, parenting, breastfeeding and yoga. Today I am sharing a really special story. It is the birth of my first baby. Now, she was born at home in the water. And the reason I'm telling you now is because I feel there's such a need for these types of stories to be heard. You know, maybe you might hear that home birth is better for second time parents, and I don't agree. I think anybody who wants to experience a home birth should have the option, and it is a perfectly safe and fantastic option for a first time mother. I am telling this story in retrospect because my daughter is 9, she's nearly 10. But as I said, that's why I'm telling it. I feel there's a real need for these types of stories. And the story of my son, who was born at home just over 3 years ago outside in our garden under our tree, has been really well received. And I've got so many messages of encouragement and thanks from people because I shared that. And I think it's really important to share our birth stories. And so this is one that I've wanted to do for a while. So I hope you enjoy it. Before I get stuck in though, please would you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you like it, and share with anyone who you think might benefit from watching this video. So I'm going to narrate the story, but I do have some footage from the night of the labor and birth, so I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to start with just a little bit of background. So I was a first time mom and had decided to go for a home birth. We had booked in with a self-employed community midwife called Colette. She lived about 10 minutes away from me. We lived in Dublin at the time. We don't anymore, but at the time we lived in a small terraced house in Dublin. And the midwife that I was lucky enough to have to care for me during this time lived only 10 minutes away. So I was due... I'm going to start the story like the day I went into labor, or I suppose the night before. So I wasn't due for another week. I had stopped work 1 week previous, so I was giving myself 2 weeks off before the birth. So so exactly a week before my baby was due, we were having dinner. It was a Friday night and we were having dinner, and I did start to feel I just felt a bit funny. Like, I can't really describe it. I just felt a bit off. And I suppose, and then that night I got up once or twice to go to the toilet and I had diarrhea. And kind of didn't think too much of it. But the next morning, so Saturday morning, I knew something was going on. And I didn't really feel proper contractions yet. It was just kind of more like a little bit crampy. So that was like maybe 8 a.m. in the morning. And then by about 9, we were getting up, and me and my fiance weren't married yet. We are now. I was getting up and, I was like, yeah, something's going on. I'm feeling these kind of niggly little, wouldn't call them pains, just kind of, I suppose I kind of realized after half an hour or so, okay, this is probably pre-labor.
Yeah.
Nothing? What are you feeling?
Pain.
What's this pain called?
Labor. Pre-labor.
Pre-labor.
I'm taking a video of me.
Yeah. And why are you feeling pre-labor?
Why?
Because Baba's coming.
I will kill you. Okay, you can turn it off now.
So my midwife was fantastic. Like, she had gone through so much of this stuff with me. I knew exactly what to do or what not to do, and just to go about my day as normal. But I will put in the caveat that we were not actually prepared for the birth yet. We thought we'd have another week, if not longer, to get all the stuff prepared. So we did kind of realize quite early on that morning that we'd have to, get in the car and take a few trips around to get a few bits and pieces that we still hadn't got, you know, that we needed for the home birth. So, so got dressed, had some breakfast, and I think at this point I did contact my midwife, so maybe at 10 or 11 in the morning, and just explained to her how I was feeling. She said, that's fine, just keep me posted. I told her, you know, we're going to go and get all the few things that we need. She said, that's grand. So I spent a little bit of time that morning folding some clothes, some baby clothes, all the little onesies and stuff, and that was a really lovely thing to do. It just felt so perfect, you know, for a kind of a pre-labor project. It was, you know, don't have to think too much, just kind of folding and really, you know, enjoying all the little tiny littleness of the clothes and stuff. And so I really enjoyed doing that. And then we got in the car and we needed some incontinence sheets, and towels, and I can't even remember, a few little things like that. So I'd say we went into, well, I just stayed in the car. We went into like Tesco and a few places like that, but I just waited. I didn't want to be in a shop in case I got, like, at this point they were really manageable, really kind of not strong at all, like quite weak contractions. I don't know if I even call them contractions at that point, but cramps. But I still didn't want to be in a shop, like around people and stuff, getting that. So I stayed in the car, and that was fine. But I do remember stopping in a couple of chemists because we needed to get these incontinence sheets. And like in hindsight, we probably would have done without them, you know. But it was on the list, so we needed to get them. And we ended up going into the city centre. And we lived in Clontarf. It wasn't far, but I remember sitting like in the car in Talbot Street and just watching people go by. My husband gone in to get the incontinence sheets. Anyway, we got all we needed. I do remember like giving out stink going over like a ramp, a speed bump, in the middle of like a contractions, and like giving out stink to Glenn, because I was like, you'd have to gonna wait until the contraction is over before you go to speed bump. But anyway, it was fine. It was very manageable. It was just kind of a pity that we had to go and do those things, I suppose, but we did them and it was grand. I came back home, kind of relaxed. I did give her a call again. Then when I did call her, I think I actually started using the TENS machine before, like maybe at 4 in the afternoon, because I said to her, look, you know, I'm still getting the contractions or the surges. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I asked, you know, what do you think about me using a TENS machine at this point? And now that was a tip that I had gotten from somebody at a home birth meeting, and I was really glad because, you know, it gave me a bit of extra. It was like an extra tool to use at that point, even though it was still quite early on and it was quite manageable. So I kind of got used to the TENS machine. I hadn't even taken it out of the box before then. Really prepared, and anyway, it was grand. Like I got using it and it was fine and it was helpful. So then my midwife did call over at about 6 in the evening, and at that point she decided to check me. Or she asked, could she check me? And I said, yeah, that's fine. We had a really good relationship already. I had met her so many times in my home, and each time she came, she stayed for 2 hours. So it was really lovely. She's just such a calm and gentle and just a lovely presence. So anyway, she checked me and she did a VE, a vaginal exam, and I had not started dilating yet. I was just fully effaced. So basically the cervix was just kind of ready to start dilating, let's say. I kind of got the impression that she felt like it was going to be a long night ahead kind of thing, because she was like, look, you know, you can stay in here. She was helping me get comfortable. I was using the ball, and then I was like, you know what, I actually don't want the ball. I just sat in a cross-legged position, like a little yoga like position. Before I got into the kind of my own zone, she was kind of chatting to me, and she was like, look, do you mind if I lie down next door? We had the spare room. And I said, no, that's grand. She's like, I'm just going to lie down and take a rest because we'll probably be up most of the night. And I said, yeah, that's fine. So she went in next door, lay down. And actually that was really lovely and reassuring knowing she was there. And in the meantime, my husband was downstairs and he was getting the pool ready. Okay, babe, tell me what you're up to.
Okay, so we exactly as directed, put down the duvet and the kind of splash barrier on the ground, and now I'm starting to inflate the birthing pool. And it's a serious piece of kit, I have to say. Forgive the noise out of the pump.
her pool, and of course we hadn't checked, we hadn't done a trial run or anything, because we kind of thought we'd loads of time, you know, I expected to be going over and everything. Anyway, so he was getting the pool ready downstairs. He was actually blaring out music, right? And it was actually wrecking my head because I wanted to listen to my own music. Anyway, so I can't remember, did I say it to him? I did say it to my midwife to say to him, just turn down his music. And he did, and that was fine. But he was so busy to getting the pool ready and checking on me and everything, making sure I was fine. But I actually really enjoyed having that space, my own space in my own room, just sitting in a cross-legged position. And at that point I was listening to some music, but I began to visualize ocean waves, and I hadn't practiced that. At that point I was a yoga teacher, but I wasn't specialized in pregnancy and birth or anything yet. I did that after my first baby, but I don't know, it just came to me, this vision of the ocean. And we lived beside the sea, and I had walked every day during the pregnancy, you know, up and down the prom there by the sea. And for some reason it just came to me, and I just closed my eyes and I visualized the ocean. And it was like almost as if each time a contraction came, it was like I felt like I was being swept away by the wave, and it was the wave was like coming through my body, and it was absolutely incredible. It just felt amazing. Like, it felt really refreshing and just kind of incredible. It felt incredible, and I don't know if at the time I realized it, but it was really enjoyable. It was really, I suppose, I was feeling the power of nature, let's say, in the waves and in the contractions and the surges coming through me, and it was beautiful. And I guess I was a couple of hours in my room, and I was breathing just very deeply. It wasn't any particular breath, and you know, or anything like that. It was just I was breathing deeply, and I was visualizing the waves, and I was listening to Krishna Das, his mantras as well, and they were really, really profound and powerful, and helped me to get into this space where it was just me and my inner being, let's say, or, you know, and I just felt so strong, and I felt really powerful, and just kind of let it go each time. I'd kind of the surge would come, and then I just let it go, and it was kind of cyclical, and it was flowing, and it was grand. Like, I was fine, and then I guess it was a couple hours later, I decided I needed to use the loo. And so I called Colette, I think, at that point, or maybe she came in, she probably heard me, because I probably started to make some noise at that point. And she came in, and I'd say she probably realized, okay, she's a bit further on than she had expected I would be. So at that point then I went into the loo and I sat on the loo, and I found that fantastic, like a fantastic way to labor, just sitting on the loo. Now, Colette brought me a pillow to put behind me. I had some water, and I was using the TENS machine that whole time actually as well. And I brought the TENS in as well, and I had my music on, and it was great. Like, I found being on the loo so helpful, just, you know, gravity, and it was comfortable, and it was good. It did start to get a little bit more intense, and like, my husband was coming up and down. I remember when I was on the loo, actually, it was one of those, you know, terrace houses where the loo was up the stairs, at the top of the stairs. And because obviously we hadn't prepared our dinner or anything for that day, my husband called for a pizza delivery. And I remember being up in the loo laboring and hearing the ding dong, the pizza guy coming with the pizza, which is kind of funny. And I remember thinking, oh, I'll have a bit of pizza. And then I remember Colette going, well, maybe you shouldn't, just, you know, maybe you're okay. And actually I was okay, and I'm glad I didn't have the pizza. Afterwards I was glad, you know. And yeah, so I sat on the loo, and I labored away on the loo for a couple of hours, and using the TENS, using my breath, listening to music, and being checked on the whole time by my midwife and my husband. And then I remember, like, distinctly the time where my husband came up and said, right, the pool is ready. And he like the temperature, and it was full enough and all the rest of it. And he told me afterwards we didn't have a thermometer. Again, we're extremely prepared, but we had fish we had a fish tank. So he used the thermometer from the fish tank to check the water temperature, which was perfect. So it was 37 degrees, so perfect for me to get into. So then I was helped down the stairs, and at that point took off the TENS machine. This was about 10 p.m. I'd say, and got into the pool. Now the pool was so lovely and warm, and it just like, you know, when you're pregnant and you get into a swimming pool and just feel weightless, you know, you don't feel like you have this big, you know, belly in front of you. And it was just it was very relieving, but at the same time labor didn't stop, you know, it continued. And so it was like, okay, this is lovely relief, but it hasn't gone away. So I guess I was so used to the TENS and how it was helping me that I had to kind of readjust to, you know, a different form of natural pain relief in the pool. But it was lovely. And like my husband had the room beautiful. It was like there was little fairy lights. It was all the lights were dimmed, and we put on some music. We actually put on the gentle birth affirmations in like on the speaker, and that really helped me. I loved the affirmations and believed every single one that came along, and it really helped as well. And then so then it was just a matter of I was getting comfortable in the pool. Each time a contraction came, I just kind of welcomed it, breathed through it. And then afterwards, Colette had a little torch on her head. So because it was quite dark in the room, she just, anytime she needed to look at me or check me and the baby. So after each contraction, she checked the baby's heart with the little torch on her head. And she was just so reassuring. Like, she just lovely, just really, really lovely to have around. But it was very intimate as well. It was just me, my husband, and my midwife. And it was so calm, so peaceful. The fire was lit. This was March, but still we lit the fire, and Ireland, like and yeah, like I just found different ways to labor, and I was incredibly thirsty, and I just remember my husband just kept giving me more water, and I was just moving around the pool, getting to all fours, trying different positions and that. And there was a couple of times, like my midwife did not say very much, but a couple of things she did say, I remember like it was yesterday, because they were so perfect in each moment that she said them, and one of the things she said when I had been in the pool for maybe an hour, and it was getting quite intense, my waters broke in the pool, and I just remember feeling like a pop and kind of a release, and that was lovely. I was like, yes, progress. And it was then after the waters broke, it got very, very intense, and I remember just Glenn, my husband, was in front of me, kneeling down, and I was holding his hands, and I was squeezing, and I was just looking into his eyes, like just constantly looking into his eyes, obviously taking a drink of water here and there. But I remember just feeling the power and the strength and the belief and the confidence and the trust between us in that moment, and it was so incredible. Like, it was so profound, and it just gave me so much strength. Like I had the strength, and he had the strength, but his presence was just incredible. And then Colette she said, now would you like to reach down and touch your baby's head with your hand? And I was like, you show off a rocker. But I did, and I could feel my baby's head, and that just like was mind blowing, and it changed my whole, like, I was like, that's it, she's nearly here, I didn't know she was a she yet, but that was incredible, just being asked that question and just doing that, and so aware of everything that was going on, even though it was so calm and peaceful. And then so several contractions later, I guess she was, going through, I know now that she's going through, like, in and out kind of crowning and coming back in at that point. And then it was coming up to midnight, you know, and I remember Colette saying to me, would you like your baby to be born on the 24th or the 25th? And it was coming up to midnight, you know. I was like, 24th! And anyway, it was a little bit after midnight when she was born, but I just remember that gave me such kind of, yeah, I'm going to do it, you know. And then Colette suggested, she's like, how about you go into a squat position? It was like, you know, we knew it was coming. We knew she was coming. And so I held on. The pool had these like little handles, which were so handy. I held on to the handles and got into a deep squat. And that really helped, you know, that shift in position. And then in a couple of more pushes, she was born. And I say pushes, but it was all voluntary. Like it was, I wasn't pushing, like my body was doing it, you know. It was a spontaneous, you know, the spontaneous ejection. And what I remember so clearly, because I was in a squat position, that she had obviously, her head had been born. I was in the water, so I couldn't really see. It was dark. But once she was born fully, so once she came out, her whole body, she came out and all in one go. And Colette must have been looking down, because I remember so clearly watching. I remember seeing her whole body come out, and her face and her eyes were wide open underneath the water. And I just like stared down at her, and she just stared up at me. And it was like, she's here. There she is. And then Colette reached down, picked her up, and lifted her up and brought her up to me. But that moment of when her eyes met my eyes was like the most incredible moment ever, because it was like we were just watching each other. And it was just like this split second, kind of frozen in time, where it was like, Mom, and I'm like, Luna. We hadn't named her yet, but we did very soon. Very quickly we named her. But now Colette did have to kind of use a little suction thing to help her lungs. She was here. She was here, and she was with us, and she was in the pool with me. And we stayed in the pool. Stayed in the pool for a little while. And it was so incredible just to be lying in the pool with my daughter, having just birthed her, and with only 2 people present. 2 really incredibly important and powerful and beautiful people. And it was just so powerful. It was so raw and powerful, yet peaceful and beautiful. So we might have been in there for about half an hour, and then Colette suggested maybe we should get out. So we did, and at that point, Glenn cut the cord, and he took her in a blanket, and I went upstairs with Colette. Now, I had a blanket as well, and we went upstairs because she was like, look, you enjoy labouring on the loo, so let's try that for the placenta. So I sat in the loo for a while, and nothing was happening. We had discussed this, and I had the appropriate medical equipment that Colette would need to give me an injection to help the placenta out. So in the end, we decided to do that because it was taking a while. Now, at one point, I do remember I kind of blacked out. It must have been the blood loss. But it was only for a second, and Colette was there, and she caught me, and she put me sitting back up, and I was fine. I guess I was probably exhausted, you know, even though it was still only like 1 a.m. But it was obviously a lot for my body to go through. So anyway, soon after she had given me the injection, Syntocin, I think it's called. Anyway, the placenta was born, and she had put just a little bowl in underneath me in the loo, so she caught it, no problem, and that was that done. I was really glad. I found that quite challenging because it was contractions, and it took a lot more energy than I expected, I suppose. But anyway, the placenta was born, and then we went back into the bedroom. I cuddled Luna again. Colette helped me to kind of get, ready and in bed, and I was cuddling her and breastfeeding her again. And at that point, then Colette did all the newborn checks. So she weighed her and checked her fingers and her toes and all hips and all those things. So at that point, then she tucked us up in our bed, and then she said good night to us, the three of us, and she headed off. And then early the next morning, she came back and she checked on us and everything. It was so lovely to have her support in the first couple of weeks. So in the first week, she visited us every day. And that visit usually was helping me with breastfeeding. We talked a lot about the birth and kind of processing different parts of it, remembering different things. And, especially with the breastfeeding, it was really helpful because, positioning, latch, I had cracked nipples and stuff at the beginning, but all of that was ironed out within a couple of days, just with support from Colette. And she's a lactation consultant, and she was a Leche League leader as well, so she had a lot of, I suppose, lived experience and then professional experience as well. So helpful. It was amazing, and just every day, just look forward to her visit. And so she helped us with so much, not only the birth, but also in the early parenting. So kind of understanding even like things like co-sleeping and breastfeeding, and being attentive to her needs, to Luna's needs. I think maybe on day 2 we decided for sure her name, and that's when we sent a text out to everyone. And it was just such an amazing experience to give birth in a pool in her house. I'm just really grateful that I had the opportunity to avail of the home birth scheme, the free HSE self-employed community midwife scheme that not too many people know about. And even though when I suggested it to my GP, she was like, oh, why would you do that? I still researched it, and I found people who had home births, and I went to home birth meetings and stuff as well beforehand. So it was really, just was so glad that I made that decision, because it changed so much of my life. And I remember one thing that really stuck with me, what Colette said at the beginning, was that home birth is really safe for first-time mothers, because it's usually a really slow labor. Like my labor with Luna was quite textbook. I mean, active labor was only about 6 hours, but even so, like, that's plenty of time should something go wrong for a transfer. So I was really glad to know that because first labors can be quite slow, that it gives you time. It gives you time if something happens that you need extra help and you need to transfer into a hospital. And I was totally happy to do that. It's not like I just, only wanted to birth at home. But now knowing what I know, and now having studied, pre and postnatal yoga and stuff like that, and surrounded myself in a lot of kind of birth people, and having studied breastfeeding with La Leche League and stuff, I really know how lucky I was to have researched and to have experienced home birth as a first-time mom. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed the story, and please, if you have any questions, just put them down in the comments below. I absolutely love talking about birth, and at some point I will tell the story of my second child's birth as well, because his was completely different to the 2 that I've already shared, and completely amazing as well. Thanks a million. Again, subscribe, like, and share if you can. I really appreciate watching. I hope that if you're pregnant, that I've inspired something or ignited some interest, and yeah, go for it. Just believe in yourself and trust yourself, because you're incredible, and surround yourself with people who believe and trust in you too. Namaste.